You unlock this door with the key of imagination.
The Twilight Zone looked like pure fantasy, but the secrets behind the camera were stories darker than anything Rod Serling ever wrote. Actors haunted off-screen, scripts strangled by fear, and a creator burning himself alive for art. Here are 15 facts you won't believe. Number 15. Before Rod Serling became television's poet of the unknown, he was a paratrooper in the Pacific. A kid barely 20 dropped into the mud and terror of the Philippines. He watched his best friend Melvin Levy killed horrifically by a falling supply crate. Another died delivering Serling a chocolate bar. But the worst memory wasn't on the battlefield. It was in his sleep. For years afterward, he woke up in a cold sweat, trapped between dreams and gunfire. Doctors would now call it PTSD. Back then, he just called it the nights. In the Twilight Zone, when soldiers faced fate or guilt, Serling was reliving his own invisible war. Number 14. On November 1st, 1963, The Twilight Zone aired Living Doll, starring Telly Savalas as a bitter stepfather tormented by his daughter's toy, Talkie Tina. The prop used on set was a modified doll, altered so its head could turn and eyes appeared to blink on their own. Its blank stare and eerie realism unsettled even the crew. Talkie Tina's innocent voice delivered lines that would become iconic.
My name is Talkie Tina, and I don't think I like you.
60 years later, that single phrase still defines one of television's creepiest moments. Proof that fear doesn't need special effects, just a voice that sounds a little too real. Quick pause. Most of you watching aren't subscribed. Please hit that button. It really helps us keep making great content. Number 13. When Inger Stevens filmed The Hitchhiker in 1959, she was only 25, portraying a woman stalked by death along a desolate highway. What audiences never knew was that just months earlier, Stevens had survived a suicide attempt. The fear, the trembling, the quiet resignation in her performance weren't acting. They were aftershocks. Rod Serling even named her doomed character Nan, after his own daughter, adding another eerie layer of intimacy. But the darkness that haunted her on camera never fully lifted. In 1970, Stevens was found dead in her kitchen at 35. Watching The Hitchhiker today feels like watching fate rehearse. A woman already walking that endless road, waving goodbye to a world that couldn't save her. Number 12. Before The Twilight Zone, Rod Serling wrote realistic dramas and saw everyone gutted by sponsors. They deleted words like lynching and prejudice. Furious, Serling turned to science fiction. I can't write about the world as it is, he said, so I'll disguise it. The monsters and aliens weren't escape. They were camouflage. Through fantasy, he cleverly revealed the truth. Every strange twist carried a message he wasn't allowed to say out loud. The Twilight Zone wasn't rebellion through lasers. It was rebellion through metaphor. And it worked. Number 11. In 1959, Oscar winner Gig Young gave one of the Twilight Zone's most moving performances. A man yearning to return to his childhood, desperate to escape the pressures of adulthood. Off-screen, that longing was real. Fame had brought him success, but also failed marriages, alcoholism, and depression. By the late 1970s, the charm that once lit up screens had turned fragile and frayed. In 1978, only 2 weeks after marrying his fifth wife, he shot her and then himself. The tragedy stunned Hollywood. His life had become a haunting echo of the roles he'd played, forever chasing peace in a world that refused to give it. It wasn't just irony, it was the Twilight Zone, bleeding into reality. Number 10. Serling didn't just host the Twilight Zone, he was it. He wrote 92 of the 156 episodes himself, often overnight. He chain-smoked through rewrites and averaged 4 hours of sleep. One friend said he lived on coffee, cigarettes, and terror of the deadline. By season 4, Serling confessed he was drained dry, yet he refused to slow down. He called exhaustion the writer's tax. The genius that birthed the Zone was eating him alive. When he finally collapsed years later, his doctors said his heart had carried the same workload as 3 men's careers. He wasn't just racing deadlines, he was racing death itself. Number 9. Serling pitched a story about a man lynched by townspeople, and CBS panicked. Sponsors threatened to pull out if the script aired, so Serling rewrote it and moved it to space. Same story, different planet. He called it The Only Way Truth Gets Past the Gatekeepers. Viewers saw aliens learning lessons about prejudice, but Serling knew who it was really about. He once told an interviewer, "We censor truth, then wonder why people stop believing in it." Even now, the story feels more like journalism than fantasy. Number 8. Burgess Meredith, later known as the Penguin in Batman, became an icon on the Twilight Zone. But his most famous role, a man who finally has time to read after the end of the world, haunted him. He called it the loneliest performance I ever gave. After filming, Meredith admitted he couldn't shake the image of that ruined world. He said, "I dreamed of silence and it scared me. It wasn't just fiction, it was a mirror." The character had found peace in destruction, and that truth terrified the man who played him. Number 7. Despite changing television forever, Serling grew disillusioned with the Twilight Zone. He worried audiences loved the weirdness but missed the warnings. "I wanted to wake people up," he confessed, "but maybe I just helped them dream." He saw his creation as both gift and curse. The irony? His show became exactly what he feared. Timeless entertainment that softened its deeper sting. Yet, decades later, its lessons still echo. In trying to teach morality through monsters, Serling proved something larger, that empathy can survive even in a world built on fear. Number 6. By 1963, Serling's nerves were shot. He'd lost creative control and was teaching college just to find peace. In one interview, his voice trembled as he said, "I'm tired of the monsters." Behind the cool narrator facade was a man unraveling. He'd carried the moral weight of the show on his back. Every war, every injustice, every fear. His wife later said he came home gray with exhaustion. When the Twilight Zone ended in 1964, Serling called it both a relief and a heartbreak. Genius, it turns out, has a steep emotional bill. Number 5. Before fame found them, Hollywood legends passed through the Twilight Zone. A young Robert Redford played death disguised as a kindly stranger. Carol Burnett brought humor to one of the rare comedic episodes. Burt Reynolds, William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, even Ron Howard, Elizabeth Montgomery, Dennis Hopper, and more. Serling had a knack for spotting raw talent before anyone else. For many, their short walk through the Twilight Zone became the strange, uncredited doorway to stardom. Number 4. During production, sponsors often demanded script changes. One cigarette company didn't want characters smoking the wrong brand. A food company objected to a line mentioning hunger. Serling pushed back, calling it commercial censorship. He said, "I'll write about humanity, not hamburgers." The tension grew so fierce that CBS warned him to cool it. He didn't. He just buried his messages deeper, hiding social truths inside aliens and time travel. The sponsors thought they'd tamed him. Instead, they accidentally paid for some of the boldest television ever made. Number 3. At a time when television avoided controversy, the Twilight Zone dared to whisper what others wouldn't say aloud. In the heat of the civil rights era, Rod Serling smuggled truth into science fiction, disguising human cruelty behind alien masks and moral parables. But the monsters weren't on other worlds, they were us. When he wrote Eye of the Beholder about a woman deemed ugly by her society, he was really writing about racial prejudice and the blindness of conformity. Of course it's political, Serling said. So is fear. He turned cautionary tales into empathy machines, forcing viewers to confront injustice through metaphor. Every strange planet and haunted town was really America, seen through the cracked mirror of conscience called the Twilight Zone. Number 2. When the final season wrapped, Serling stood on set to record his last narration. The crew expected routine. Instead, he paused, exhaled, and said, "We leave you now. But not for long." It wasn't scripted. The room went silent. Some said it felt like a goodbye he knew was coming. Serling died just 11 years later at age 50, yet reruns kept his voice alive, exactly as he promised. That line, meant for television, became prophecy. The narrator who led us through the unknown never really left. He's still speaking from the static. Number 1. Rod Serling taught America to expect a twist ending, but his own life delivered one. The man who warned us about obsession, conformity, and burnout couldn't escape them. In 1975, Serling suffered 3 heart attacks in less than 2 months and died on the operating table. He was exhausted, disillusioned, and feared his work hadn't changed enough minds. Serling spent his life turning truth into illusion so the world could finally look at it. Every alien, every twist, they weren't escapes, they were reflections. In the end, he wasn't warning us about the Twilight Zone. He was warning us about the one we're still living in. A place where every lie wears the mask of truth. Bonus fact: Walt Disney quietly admired Serling's storytelling. A decade later, when Disney Imagineers built the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, they used Serling's real voice to welcome guests into the ride. Decades after his death, Serling was still guiding people through another dimension. If this brought back goosebumps, share your favorite Twilight Zone memory below and tell us which classic we should dig up next. And please consider subscribing.